Recently, to prepare my playthrough of AC Shadows, which won't be for a while, life stuff, it happens, but I have been playing the Assassin's Creed games non-stop. Made a video on the best era of Assassin's Creed with Brotherhood. Now let's get to the slightly high mid to mid era of Assassin's Creed, and that is Unity and Syndicate. And after, all the patches and stuff like that, they still have a little bit of issues here and there, but it's not that bad. Personally, I like Syndicate more because I can actually lead NPCs to battle, but even that has its limitations. But Unity, dear God, half of the content, or at least, half of the game, right, is just unplayable because co-op is a big part of Unity. So when essentially the game is fucking dead, all the content is just a waste of fucking time. It's a waste of fucking effort. Like, it just, I can't play it. Maybe with like somebody I can like look for to, I don't know, play the fucking game, but I'm not going to sit there for like 10, 20 minutes to find somebody hopefully playing the fucking game, right? Crazy thing is, both of these games came out 1 year, like almost 1 year from each other, right? And, it's fucking Ubisoft, right? The glitches and everything just made everything fucking worse, right? When they both did come out. Right. It's no secret Unity had such a disastrous launch and a life cycle that just it was basically less than a year because Syndicate, didn't have that much of a better life cycle in of itself. But now in 2025, I still encounter dumbass shit, right? Like it's just so fucking dumb. So yeah, why am I talking about these two games? The reason why is that these two games are the last two before we got this whole new era of Assassin's Creed with Origins, then Odyssey, then Valhalla, then Mirage, and now Shadows. I want to really point out that even to this day, Ubisoft has a real problem with fleshing out their game in more meaningful ways when it comes to the gameplay that also impacts the world, right? Recently I've been playing, I finished Origins. I'm going to be making a video specifically on Origins. And right now, I didn't finish. I'm playing Odyssey. I don't know why it's taking me such a long time to think. But right now, as of right now, I liked Origins a lot. They were cooking with that. It just feels like they could have done more with the characters and the concept and the origins of the Brotherhood, right? Odyssey, as of right now, it doesn't even feel like an Assassin's Creed game. It just feels like a whole different type of game with Assassin's Creed elements to it. But we all know that like Odyssey wasn't meant to be a full-on Assassin's Creed game, right? Just the way the plays. Like, I'm not gonna get into it. Maybe in its own video, right? But yeah, look at the co-op idea for Unity. It's fucking fire. However, banking on this shit is crazy, especially when they knew Syndicate was like a year release away, and what's the point in having this co-op section? Like this whole game made for co-op, if you're just gonna make another game. And probably this is going to get forgotten, just like how Call of Duty does it all the fucking time. This this franchise is really treating each game like Call of Duty. Like, oh, well, new product on the line. Fuck this one. Fuck this other one. Right. That's just how it is. Right. Co-op never really came back again, and I wish we had an option to run missions in the city with other player assassins. Like, we had the choice to do solo missions or co-op multiplayer missions, and even with NPCs that you can control, right? That could be incredible, right? Like, you can tell them what to do. There are certain missions already in the fucking game, right, that you can go ahead and control NPCs from before and after this specific game of Unity, right? I feel like Ubisoft throws ideas in and has a habit of not using them again or in a watered down way, right? Like, they expanded on the ship combat in Black Flag and never properly used it again until Odyssey, where in my eyes it is inferior to Black Flag's, and Unity itself had its own shortcomings, right? The story carried itself like you cared. The actual revolution was just a setting, and it's not something you truly participated in. It was basically just like a fucking smoke screen, essentially, for all your activities. The assassins not even truly being part of the story or really embraced really was disappointing as well. Probably because Arno didn't really care much for the Creed or the people there, and even when he did stuff that aligned with the Creed, you have to have fucking permission to kill a goddamn Templar because they only cared about goddamn politics. Like, are you fucking kidding me? When it comes to the weapons, for me, I just want to be able to use any weapon seamlessly, but I get it. Some people enjoy like this sort of weapons play style where you go ahead and pick like a favorite like type of weapon and you can use it whenever the fuck you want and adjust it for like even powerful version of the weapon or whatever the fuck, right? That's fine by me. I don't really have a problem with it. I just prefer how old Assassin's Creed combat is, where you can just pick up any weapon and you can just use it normally, like in real life. Like if I pick up like a knife, I have as much lethality with a knife, right, as I would in Brotherhood, right? Because I can just go ahead and just stab you. But in recent games, right, it's gonna take a minute. It's gonna take a minute, depending on numbers, Mason. The fucking numbers. Like, what do they mean? It means like if your numbers aren't high enough, you won't be able to kill the person, right? Which is, it's a valid criticism of modern Assassin's Creed, where you would go ahead and stab a motherfucker in the face and they won't die, right? It's annoying. But from what I hear in Assassin's Creed Shadows, there's an actual like canon mode and actual like lethal mode where if you stab a motherfucker in the eye, and most likely they will fucking die, right? Which is nice, which is a good thing they added in Shadows, which is something I haven't experienced yet. Sooner or later, I'll get to it, right? Now let's talk about the actual drip. The clothing, all the drip and, your armor and stuff is focused a lot with armor levels and rarities, which honestly, I don't agree with because I just want to use what looks cool and effective and not worry about my level, my power level, unless I feel like it, right? Like, oh, damn, like these guys are like noticeably stronger. They have heavier weapons and, heavier gear than me. Let me go ahead and think about this real quick, because that's something you would actually in the old games have to think about. Because if these guys have fancier clothes and doesn't look like your typical fucking grunt, right? You would have to like look at them like differently, right? That's part of the older games, because, you can still kill them, but they have less vulnerabilities than your typical scrub, right? For me, I think the population density in Unity is fucking great, right? The map itself with so many buildings, so open, and areas for people to be in, so many things happening. And honestly, if they had just gave the option to where we can work with people to liberate the districts instead of like social club missions or whatever the fuck, it could have been more fun, in my honest opinion. That's why I really like Syndicate more, because I can actually use the environment to my advantage, growing a gang, giving the city support, even though some of that, I don't know, like I don't know what the fuck the fire trucks do. I've never really done anything with them. I guess they're just there to, up my street cred or make me look better in front of the people. I don't fucking know. Like, it's just weird. When it comes to this game and the gang part, it isn't super developed, right? For the most part, they follow you and they help you fight off your enemies. You can tell them to do like simple ass shit, like attack somebody, and that's really it. Nothing really involving the assassins besides the pieces of Eden and the Templars, which it's just so fucking dumb. The assassin dude in the beginning, right? He literally told you, "Hey, let's go home," and then like nothing happens, right? I don't know if there was a side quest I missed or whatever the fuck, where he comes over or he's sending letters or whatever the fuck, and and like he doesn't wonder where the fuck you guys are, right? And he's probably like hearing like information like, oh yeah, there's shit happening in London, like there's these two assassins doing stuff, like, so that aspect was just like left in the air for some fucking reason, right? And even with Evie, with all her talk about fighting the Templars, pieces of Eden, and them talking about the assassins and their order there that disappeared with their dad or some shit. There's no rebuilding of the assassin order in London. Or like what the fuck? It's such a bummer, because that would play into the whole co-op thing if they did that. And if not, it could also be like Evie's like not addition, but like contribution to rebuilding London and the Assassin Order and making everything more safer and for the people. It's with yeah, with all that dribble, right? Like all the stuff they believe in, it would have made more sense to have the assassins being in the shadows and the gang that Jacob went ahead and created being like their arms and ears and getting all the information, basically like their foot soldiers and stuff that aren't really in the know what's really going on, but the money's good, so who the fuck cares. But yeah, it's not like we don't have tons of support in the city either. Like what Syndicate had was some actual decent side missions and many characters from real to fiction that helped Evie and Jacob. So I don't see why Evie doesn't try to build up the assassins in London while Jacob focuses on his gang, the Rooks, right? Unity's story, I'm just going back and forth. I'm sorry. Unity's story and side content besides the co-op missions were, I wouldn't say boring, but I just didn't care. Like it wasn't really that interesting besides a few moments in the DLC. Hell, like Syndicate had a DLC where we would play as Jack the Ripper, who is a rogue assassin, which that shit was fucking cool. And it feels like if Ubisoft focused on smaller stories and maps, they can succeed. Like Unity, the map wasn't that big, but it was active, like everything from the streets to the buildings. And while Syndicate is decently big, it doesn't really feel truly alive unless like you actually pay attention, right? Mainly because you're either on the rooftops or you're just driving around in your your fucking horse, right? But yeah, aside from the trains and boats and stuff that are in a pattern, of course, right? I feel like London could have been better, but it was serviceable. It has that classic Ubisoft artificialness to it, unfortunately, and any liveliness there isn't shown much from the gameplay and cutscenes that I've seen, right? There really isn't like a bunch of crazy shit happening. My biggest issue with both these games is how both of them could have, if they had put some fucking effort into it, is like the ideas for both these games to be part of like the same narrative, which could have been really fucking good for each game. For fuck's sake, if both games were a mini saga connecting 2 points in time through the pieces of Eden, that could have been so fucking sick, right? Arno's story is told like we give a fuck about these people, and sure, the love story between Arno and Elise was sweet, had potential. It wasn't focused on much because you weren't like, she wasn't there, like Arno wasn't there, so what the fuck, right? Maybe if they developed his story like Ezio's, and I like Arno, he has wit, he has heart. If they developed him more with another, or with another game or two like Ezio, he could have been like, it could have been a decent like little trilogy, maybe 2 games. But Ubisoft does not commit to one assassin anymore. It sucks because if they did 2 games for certain assassins to develop their story, characters, and better gameplay, they could make bank. But they condense the games, like if they condense the games and focus on quality. I am conflicted on these games because Ubisoft not only lacks quality, the identity of Assassin's Creed has been at risk for a while now. Yes, Origins was basically the start of the Assassins in a major way that led to the Assassin's Brotherhood onto their path to becoming, the Assassins we know in current day, fighting against the Order of the Ancients that would become Templars, that would then become Abstergo. Yeah, that whole line, lineage, lineage or whatever the fuck, right? But games where we have assassin-ish elements and weak ties to the story like Odyssey and Valhalla, they don't feel like Assassin's Creed games. Even with like the games themselves like being better in their own way, it still doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed. Like it doesn't give the franchise any weight and strength because like I've said in the previous video, the direction for the series is pretty weak, but that does not mean the newer games are bad, just not entirely an Assassin's Creed experience. Mirage was pretty Assassin's Creed centric, but that was an origin story to the new modern day protagonist who's old as shit, and an inner conflict with the Order, and Basim doing his thing. And honestly, like the twist in Mirage was kind of cool. I liked it, but I didn't really like the setting or the gameplay or whatever the fuck, but like that's where the series is right now, right? Rolling back to Syndicate and Unity, these 2 games are the last like original styled like AC games developed and encapsulated like in every wrong way with Ubisoft, right? Like the lack in quality is astounding if they were to work to combine ideas and polish of these games to raise the quality of their games. They could be making money. Like look at this. I'm getting like kind of like passionate about this shit right now because I love Assassin's Creed. So imagine if Syndicate had a deeper level design and a variety of weapons and drip, right? Along with deeper commands to NPCs and actual development of the assassins that tie into the modern day. Imagine Unity giving us the choice to recruit assassins we can call on for help in missions, not just players, but actual NPCs we can use in the missions, right? Actually fighting back against the Templars in power that sparks a bigger fight, and that would be the Revolution. Making it a perfect opportunity to create better side missions that are more fun and engaging. Imagine beheading a Templar, but you have to protect the execution and have to rush around, killing silently so you don't disturb the crowd watching the execution of this Templar who has gone ahead and, you know, for all intensive purposes, right, that they went ahead and made their lives much more difficult than it needs to be. Imagine destroying defenses against the mob so they can take over and destroy the Templars inside who have been harassing them all conflict long, right? Assassins missions where you can help them kill Templar, free a neighborhood, maybe something personal to get support from the actual Assassin's Order, like how Ezio had his own support, well, created his own support in Brotherhood. I do think that the actual Assassin Order in many games of Assassin's Creed get left out and are just there for story reasons. There aren't really there much for gameplay reasons as well. So it's just, I just wish they did more than just, oh, they're there, that, like, you know, they're sometimes there, you know, gameplay wise in the world, but they don't really do much, right? You can't really interact with them. A lot of it is like how Black Flag is, or Assassin's Creed 3, where they're there and there's not really much you can really do about it, right? So I would really like the games to implement the Order more. I did see how people are not really enthused about the base building aspect of Shadows, which is a new, but it's not essentially new, right? We've always had some sort of like simulation sort of thing in our simulation game, right? Like even in Assassin's Creed 2, we could upgrade our base of operations and getting money from purchasing and upgrading buildings as well. And, you know, even in Unity, we buy buildings, but it's just like a hub for submissions and, you know, some money, etc. Right? It's not that intensive, but I don't think like this big old hate for it. Like it's like people are surprised by it, and I'm just sitting here like looking at them like there's always been these aspects in Assassin's Creed to help bolster your pocket of money, or like, you know, your upgrades and stuff like that. It's always been like that. It's always been like an added edge to your gameplay, right? Syndicate sort of falls short where a lot of what we buy is like, you know, in the options menu. Like you don't really go to like an actual store or anything anymore, right? It's not very interactive. The map is dope on a grand scale, but not very detailed like Unity was. I can't speak. It wasn't very detailed like how Unity was, where a lot of the areas you can enter, see things going on. And that's because the map is a little bit more condensed. There's always things going on. But yeah, if it wasn't like scripted stuff, then, you know, nothing would really happen in Syndicate. In Unity, like stuff is happening all the time, of course, because it's the fucking French Revolution, right? So yeah, the stories for these two games could have been so much deeper. Arno, along with Elise, flaming the revolution and joining Napoleon in a coup d'etat to overthrow the Directory, which holds the last of the Templars, who with your actions has lost control. Jacob leading the Rooks to help better the streets and curbing crime, while Evie recruits initiates to recreate the order in London, and together they would go ahead and invest in businesses, in people that would help build up and combat the reliance on Steric's businesses. Hell, they even had us go into the fucking Kenway Manor. It's such a damn waste of potential and, like, you know, coolness not to have an element of taking back important places like this for a new reborn London Assassin's Brotherhood branch. Like, their waste and potential is what conflicts me in enjoyment with these games and why Ubisoft is failing hard. While I do enjoy the games Syndicate I liked more, they could have been much better with an actual vision to them. But that goes for a lot of Ubisoft games. Like, everything I'm seeing with Shadows now is that it's a fine, okay game. Like, there are plenty of decisions you can make in the game, but if you just go ahead and put on cannon mode and, you know, sort of realistic mode where you can actually stab somebody in the neck and they fucking die, then you should be fine. They gave you a lot, they gave everybody a lot of options on what type of Assassin's Creed game you would like, right? A bunch of people bitching about like the romances and stuff. Yes, they are. Some of it is a bit weird, right? And, you know, doesn't fit into the time, right? The era. But of course, you control the buttons you press, so you're the ones that are going ahead and going out into doing all this. But there is a canon mode, and it doesn't even touch any of the romance stuff, like, at all. Like, you're the ones going ahead and doing all that. So that's my opinion. I know that the gameplay is pretty decent, especially on Naoe's part. Yasuke is pretty much just steam walls everything, right? And that's cool, I guess, if you want to have that, like, the power fantasy when it comes to that. But I think a lot of people don't really see Yasuke as being a real important, like, character, one that you can go ahead and really get into as a character, because if I remember right, a lot of people said that we don't really get into his own story arc until later on in the game, and most of it is about Naoe, which is good. You know, I hear very good things about Naoe, her gameplay and her story and stuff. It's a typical, you know, revenge story and whatever, right? But it does all seem good enough to be enough of what I would expect for a goddamn Ubisoft game, right? I'm sure, like, this concoction of the same sort of, like, formula that they made is good, right? It's fun to an extent, right? But yeah, there's still that good old Ubisoft formula in there. So when eventually I do play it, I'll give you guys a review. So yeah, that's been not my review, but sort of my thoughts as a bystander, far the fuck away from all that bullshit, right? From everything I've heard. But anyways, these are my thoughts on Unity and Syndicate and how they pretty much wasted these titles just trying to ship them out with a half-decent idea to them. Like, don't get me wrong, Unity was pretty cool. I liked a lot of the maps. I liked the map. I liked the population. Like, some of the missions were okay. I get the vision. I love the drip. There's so much you can do, like all the weapons and stuff. It's pretty goddamn neat. I just don't really care about, like, all, like, the numbers and shit like that, right? Which it didn't really have much, but it just, the gear and stuff, that's where they started. It's the goddamn gear. I will say that Syndicate was more up my alley when it comes to, like, you know, the side content, especially with the gangs and growing up your own force and stuff like that. I love that. Like, if you've paid attention to a lot of my videos, I always love going ahead and adding an element of I can't speak. Adding an element of building up your own force and using it in the world, right? In some way, shape, or form that feels satisfactory, right? That makes sense, right? That makes you feel powerful. Like in Brotherhood, it was my favorite part where events would happen and there would be like a shit ton of enemies, and I would go ahead and call all the homies and we would just decimate all of them, because we're all like masterclass assassins that know the ins and outs of how to fight with every weapon, right? Because it makes fucking sense. We're assassins. We make weapons out of anything and everything, right? Like, that's one part I miss about Assassin's Creed. But again, anyways, I'm getting in fucking tangents. But yeah, these are just my thoughts on the games. They had merit to them, and if they just, you know, had them cook like a year or two each and deepen the story and get in the gameplay to it, they could have been great. Honestly, they had a good premise for all of them, right? Even individually, besides like all the shit I said about them having like a shared narrative or whatever, even by themselves, if they just deepen the gameplay and just deepen the story more, it could have been just great by themselves, right? And that being said, what do you guys think? Do you guys agree, disagree, or, you know, would you like to go in a different direction with these games? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and, you know, stay healthy mentally, emotionally, and physically. See you guys next time. Peace. And thank you so much for the support. Subscribe for more.